Hello, viewers. Welcome back to Gotham by Night. This episode is called The Withering Rose. We cast our attention to the dusty, overworked, and strained police department of Gotham. You see, if there is one thing Gotham has a plentiful supply of, it would be criminals and police. Sometimes, most times, the lines blur, and it becomes increasingly difficult to tell who is there to help and who will look away as injustice and brutality is inflicted on you. The spirits of the law enforcement are low, but these poorly paid souls put up a front. To show weakness is to show defeat in the eyes of hungry evildoers, who would take that as a sign to unleash maximum chaos. Some men and women of the law confine themselves to a boring, monotonous existence, signing forms. Mr. Andrew Zillick is not like other men. He has a gift. Mr. Zillick, what is it that you are doing this evening? It is about 7 p.m. on a Friday evening.
Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending upon what side of the paperwork you're on, a request has come in to the police station. There's been a disturbance, a complaint, and someone would like a detective to be sent out just to make sure that there's no foul play. They're already in the middle of making arrangements for an ambulance and all the rest of it, and one or two extra hands to come along, but mostly because they expect that Andrew is going to go in, do his job efficiently, and then move on, that this would be a good milk run of sorts. It's not a happy thing, but they want to make sure he can do things by the book.
A trial by fire, but instead of fire, it is a boring, slow molasses. Such is the way that the Gotham legal system works, it appears. And before you get on your way, what exactly do you bring with you? Do you use your own car, a company vehicle? What rituals do you go through before getting on with your job?
Things are mundane enough looking from the outside in. He has his company car. He has the new uniform. He's been a beat cop for the last 2 years, so walking around in plain clothes while on the clock is a slightly new experience.
And is there anyone that you talk to before you go, or will you be going swiftly?
He checks in with his supervisor. He triple checks, probably for the last time, that they're pretty sure what he's walking into and that they're pretty sure there won't be any surprises. And for the third time, he's told they're pretty sure they know what he's getting into and there shouldn't be any surprises.
Mm-hmm. This poor supervisor of yours, he is above your station. He is working with you to bring you through these trials to make sure that you do a good job. But it is so very evident that he is overworked, overstressed, and your true self smells the faint scent of feeling trapped in one's life, the constraints of responsibility and burden and societal expectations weighing down like heavy chains, and it smells like a perfume. to your horror. But you have a job to do. And there are plenty more evildoers out there than in here with you. So I assume you get into your company car, turn that key, and begin the journey?
That would be correct.
All right. We've just experienced a glimpse, just a fracture, an inch, a millimeter into the future, into the up until soon monotonous life of Mr. Andrew Zillick. Let us explore why he is going where he is going. We now cast our attention to the sensual but not crass, luxurious but not over the top, Velvet Rose, a high-end burlesque establishment with one Mistress Tatiana, a woman that is said to strike awe in even the most hardened of hearts and the most secure of sexualities. Mistress Tatiana, what is it that you are doing this evening?
Well, at the moment, well, earlier I suppose he was watching over the performances. It's quite late in the evening, but still quite busy in the club, and she's at her personal booth at the moment, uh, looking over some paperwork, doing some, business part of the job, because that's also a thing that she doesn't really like that much.
And you've been just enjoying the music. It might be a little quietened through the walls. You don't want to be too distracted as you're signing important but admittedly boring forms, um, and it is it almost escapes your notice that something happens, something that is not of the normal. You've been in this establishment that you've owned for a bit now, and you're almost like a spider in the center of a web. Am I complimenting your long legs, Miss Black Widow? Absolutely. But the strands on your web begin to quiver and then shake violently, metaphorically. You hear a scream cut through the audio of the performance, and it was not a scream from the music or a bit that the girls are trying to add in. No, this appears to be a scream of pure terror.
Tatiana is going to look towards her two guards, questioningly.
Your number one, Jared Sherman, nods, looks at your second, Caleb May, and gives a small head gesture. If these two staff members of yours were to leave you, they wouldn't be doing their job very well. But one can briefly go astray. Caleb is the one that bites the bullet and goes to investigate what this disturbance is. And it's like you are suspended in a thick muck of anticipation. The minutes, the seconds draw out. It is almost painful to wait. You are not a woman that likes to wait, I assume. You like results. You like things to be
Indeed.
done. Am I right?
Yes, very much so.
What do you do in this uncomfortable newness and this waiting period? Jared Sherman is standing in front of you, protecting your body with his, unsure of what's going on. His hand is hovering over his firearm.
Well, I pick up all the papers that I had laid on the table, put them in the folder, like awkwardly and shakily, because I'm worried about what's happening. But I have to, act normal and composed and everything. Like, you know, nothing's happening. It could be anything.
Something has entered into your club, something that you were not aware of, something that you could not control. There is a foreign element that has made itself known in the place where you thought you had absolute control and protection and safety. And it seems to have shaken you to your core. This is not how the Velvet Rose is supposed to be. Your safe space has been violated. How worried are you?
Hmm. From a
I think,
scale of 1 to 10, I think it would be around a 5 at the moment, since I don't know exactly what's happening. I just know that someone screamed. It could be anything. It could be a spider. It could be like a rat, which
mm,
would be appalling, but I'm just waiting for the guard to go and check and let me know what is happening.
hmm eventually, finally, after what seems like an eternity of waiting, your number one, Jared Sherman, seems to cock his head to the side really quickly, an instinctive response upon hearing something, but then he brings his fingers up to the earpiece that he has equipped and begins to listen to a report. How heightened are your senses, Mistress Tatiana?
I think they're normal.
Just normal? All right.
Yeah.
Then you don't hear the other end of the conversation. You only hear what Mr. Sherman says. And Mr. Sherman seems to grow pale and concerned, but not enough to falter in his duties. He then gives a verbal and very deep, all right, before tapping his earpiece and turning to face you directly. And he tries to remain calm as to not upset you, but it appears that even he is caught off guard. He says to you, Mistress Tatiana, there appears to have been.
Well, out with it.
There's a dead body backstage.
Sorry, what?
One of your girls, I'm assuming during her quick change, they found a corpse in the prop closet. Should we get you out of here, ma'am?
No, absolutely not.
Are you sure it might not be safe here?
This is not how we do things. I. We need to go there. And she will stand up and pretty much bypass him and start walking towards the backstage.
If we're going backstage, please stay close. I can't afford you to wander off. This needs to be contained.
Yes, I understand. For now, we need to know what on earth has happened in there.
I understand. Follow me close. And he will draw back the curtain or open the door from where you are and have his firearm out of its holster, pointed down and his fingers away from the trigger as to not accidentally add another corpse to the counter. Um, but he does begin walking. And to you, maybe, the queen of this establishment, um, it appears that he is walking slow and brutish and sluggishly, but you are intelligent enough to know that he is going as fast as he can while also being as sure of his surroundings as possible so that you are kept safe. Even still, it would be much more comfortable if it was quicker, it is not. But eventually, you do make your way to the backstage where a gaggle of girls are crying, their makeup running, their hair a mess. Um, some of them are off to the corner, holding each other, shivering. But there is one woman who appears to be, no, two women who appear to be beside themselves, collapsed on the floor, crying almost in a fetal position, while another is looking on in silent but potent horror. And you see it. The door is open. You see one of those aerial crimson ribbons that you sometimes employ to your performers where they do dazzling works of motion art, but in the air, ribbon dances. But this material was used to, well, to make a noose. You know who this is. You've seen him many times now. Perhaps you've even grown to like him being around. He seems to boost morale for your performers and the other staff. He brings food to the girls when they have to do a double shift because, Susan Mary or what's her name had the flu and couldn't be bothered coming into work. Such mortal excuses. But he was there and didn't even expect to be paid. A good Samaritan, a nice soul, hung in your prop closet, dead, pale, lifeless, blue lips, and his skin sagged slightly, the life gone.
Um, in terms of staff, how many people are in the room at the moment?
There appears to be, well, first of all, you do immediately see Caleb May, who has, at this point, sorry, I should have spoken differently. He has at this time taken him down. No, you walk in and he is still finagling with the ribbons. He must have, if this is the way it looks, he really wanted this to work because even your Caleb May, a strong man, is trying to undo the knots to get him down. And finally, he is able, and he is on the ground providing CPR. While one of the girls, one of the bartenders, his name is Tyler. You hired him about 3 months ago. Really good, but young. He is on the phone waiting for an ambulance or emergency services, it appears, but has not yet connected. 5 girls are in the corner holding each other, crying, and 2 additional female performers that are wanting to get close to the body, but is being kept back by your backstage bouncer, Mark Saltz.
She will go towards the girls and kind of lead them out and towards their own changing room.
This is in their changing room, their safe
Oh,
space.
it's not the prop place.
No.
Oh, shit.
Well, their changing space has a prop area that they can use to kind of put garments on and accessories on. It was done in a place where people could easily have found him. And yet, no one found him until just a few moments ago.
All right. I'm going to go to Mark, whom I'm assuming knows, and I'm going to ask him who found him, when, and how did this happen? Pretty much.
he's stuttering and appears to be very, very nervous. You clearly intimidate him. You are, after all, his boss. And it was found when he was on duty. He doesn't even look you in the eyes, but he does respond weakly and says, Miss Moore, Sophia Moore, she found him. I don't understand what happened.
Call Mr. Jackson to come down here, please.
Yes, mistress. He will step to the side and put his fingers on the earpiece and will begin to speak. It is. He's very nervous, but he does ask for the man that you wish, and eventually he nods and says, "Okay." Taps his earpiece again, but doesn't walk over to you. He projects his voice so you can hear. He doesn't want to be near you, and he says, "He's coming."
Okay, the two girls that are crying a lot are, I assume it's the girl who found him and his friend.
You know one of these girls to be very close to the deceased. Her name is Chelsea Landon, and they, according to her, have been friends since the 5th grade. Um, and she is beside herself. She can almost choke herself on her own tears. Like her breathing is irregular. She's hyperventilating. The bartender who's now connected and speaking to the emergency services um, is trying to calm her down, but she keeps like slapping him away. Like, no, you don't understand. Like, I don't understand what's happening. And he is trying so hard to accommodate the phone call and take care of her. It neither is working. And Sophia Moore is the woman who is not crying, but staring on an absolute horror. She appears to have wet herself. And with that, we will transition over to Mr. Andrew Zillick.
Yes.
It is, well, it's a Friday, and it is growing to be a little later in the evening, let's say about, you got the message at about 8:30. The traffic is terrible, even with the sirens. But you are mid-transit, and you feel a little tingle, a little. It's like being outside in the middle of a storm. There's energy around, and it's not bad, or maybe it is bad, but you kind of like it. It's invigorating. Your horror seems to be quite excited.
Just another job. Just another job. But maybe sometimes a bit of pleasure.
Your horror's form, its limbs, if you wish to be kind and call them that, begin to snake and slither and squirm around the car, wrapping tightly, almost as tightly as an ephemeral being can, around the seats, around the dials, around the foot pedal. Of course, it can't actually physically touch anything, but you can just see this instinctive need to trap, to ensnare, to asphyxiate. Something has happened tonight that has caused quite a desire to feast. You don't know what it is just yet. Perhaps it's that detective hunch of yours. But as you draw closer and closer to your destination, the grip around the items that the horror is clenching down on appears to be tightening in anticipation. Um, its mouth, if it has one, watering, and you almost don't don't realize, but you're kind of beginning to drool as well. When was the last time you fed, Andrew Zillick?
Well, as one does, usually out on the beat, he would get smaller bites, little morsels now and again. A thief he would have had to have chased down and tackled. Someone in a fight in a bar a few hours later, needing to be let out and tossed in the back of a paddy wagon. Something to usually kept him rather tided over. He doesn't normally have to put a lot of time and effort into truly feasting.
You've been on a diet for a while, Mr. Zillick, but it appears that a Thanksgiving feast and then some has wafted through the primordial realms and tickled and teased your horror's senses. We will, unless you have more thoughts you wish to share. No?
No, not at the moment.
We will then return to the dramatic scene that Mistress Tatiana finds herself in. He's not breathing. His lips are blue. His name is Dalton Graves. He's 21 years old, says the bartender as he is listing off a bunch of information. You were just standing there watching the chaos unravel.
Is the head of security downstairs yet?
Yes, he just walked in, and his mouth is agape.
Yeah, I'm going to have him take Sophia and Chelsea upstairs to the office where there's also an apartment
Mhm.
and have them be, get more comfortable, get away from the scene so they're not, you know, fuck.
In the way, inconvenient.
No, not exactly. Just, it's not helping them, it's not helping us. I need to figure shit out. I need to get things moving along here because something bad happened. I need to figure out how this happened.
Hmm.
So that's the first step.
Well, when you give the instructions to Mr. Jackson, he does not miss a beat. He goes over first to Sophia, who is in absolute shock and horror, and he kind of clicks loudly and even is so bold to grab hold of her shoulders and shake her a little bit. He could have gotten sued over such a thing, but it appears he doesn't give a damn. This is an emergency situation, and you are his employer. He's doing as instructed, and she kind of snaps out of this fugue-like state. And before she starts screaming and crying and carrying on with those mortal emotions of hers, he gives her a command, not a suggestion, to go into the apartment upstairs and to try to calm down. There is alcohol. And he just begins to list off a couple of things that might give her something to grab hold of, emotionally speaking, and give her enough motivation to do as told. And when he does issue this command, you can tell that there is no supernatural tomfoolery going on. It is the force of a personality and the the guise of having everything under control that seems to, at least for now, give her enough willpower to, with very shaky legs, climb up the stairs towards the apartment building. Chelsea Landon, however, is a more difficult individual. She is slapping away the hands of the bartender who is trying to help, and when Mr. Jackson comes over to assist her, she does not stop for him. She kicks, she screams, she claws. She even looks like she's about to bite when um, when Mr. Jackson tries to grab hold of her. Um, and Mr. Jackson is trying his best, but he looks at you with an expression that's like, "Do you want me to go further?"
Uh, I will make a gesture for him to stop, and I will go over to her and I will. Give me a second, I need to check the book. Oh,
This is a very highly tense situation.
indeed. Okay. Mm. Alright.
What was that? Mistress Tatiana, are you still there?
God, this book is so hard to read. Um,
What exactly are you looking for?
I'm going to first apply awe, and
Ah,
then I'm going to apply the confidant, which is the
okay.
second power. The first one, mm,
How does that feel? You know, like how I would like you to describe to me how it feels to allow yourself to um, manifest these powers. Is it a tingling all over? Is it just as bland as I want her to feel this way, so she will? Describe to me how the vitae works.
mm. Well, at this point, it's almost instinctive that when things don't go my way by the natural course, I will make it be so with the abilities that I have. It's pretty much that simple. And at the moment, things are not going how I want them to go. This isn't, helping the situation at all, so she has to be more, let's say, cooperative.
Hmm. Well, as you make your desire, you are of the Mistress Tatiana is of the clan that nobody wants to say no to. It's not that they can't. Sometimes it's just that they don't want to. She can be very persuasive, her and her clan. As sweet as a rose. As you allow your influence to exude from you, you notice that everyone in the room kind of finds their attention being drawn to you, as if they are looking to you in this moment of crisis. Maybe you know what to do. You are, after all, the owner of this establishment. You are the one that brought them all up from nothing. You saw potential in all of them, and they have repaid you with loyalty and a never ending cycle of finance and clients. And then you wish to apply Confidant, is that correct?
Yes, so let me roll that real quick. Uh,
Hmm. That would be your presence, empathy, and
Presence,
majesty
empathy, and majesty. Yes.
versus her resolve. Um, so take away uh, 2 dice.
Dice. Fuck, fuck, fuck. Okay.
And get rid of the appropriate blood.
Yeah. Okay, we got 2 successes.
Two successes. It is a success. Um, she now has the charmed condition inflicted onto her. Okay,
So
sure.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to go close to her and I'm going to uh, caress her face, softly and look at her with a very soft voice. Tell her, "There's nothing you can do here, dear. We will figure it out. Just go upstairs. Sophia is there, and be comfortable. I will be with you in a little bit. It will be alright."
She seems to relax is not the appropriate word, but she definitely appears to come down from this hysteria, um, and kind of melts into your caress. The defeatism just taking over her body. This nihilism of what you said. She can't do anything. She feels helpless. Looks like it too, but and doesn't even have the strength to argue. She just lets out a soft weep, a pitiful cry, a nauseating sob. She doesn't look very pretty when she's crying, but she peels herself up off the floor. Mr. Jackson helping, of course. She is so weak and so much energy has been expended from her that she does require Mr. Jackson to help her up the stairs. Um, but when he tries to lift her almost in a bridal style, um, she refuses. Him not trying to be romantic, clearly, but more so trying to just alleviate any um, any inconvenience. But she declines, and they go for the whole arm over the shoulder kind of spiel, and she gets carried up, and you lose sight of 3 of your employees: Chelsea, Sophie, and your head of security. Now you're left with a corpse, someone on the phone to the law enforcement and medical, and 5 women in the corner, kind of just holding each other. And of course, your second in command, providing CPR. He appears to have stopped and is shaking his head.
Okay, I will instruct Mark to take the girls to my booth and have them sit there and then return. And after he does that, I will pull up my phone and I will make a call to the my contact in the Invictus to get someone over here like pronto, because this is bad.
This
This
is
is
very
very
bad.
bad.
Okay, Mark does as instructed. Again, he is kind of almost tiptoeing around you as if you were a high powered explosive about to be detonated or activated, rather. Or maybe some kind of predator that requires a lot of attention and care to not anger. But he does as instructed. He goes over to the gaggle of women and escorts them outside. They appear to be more than willing to leave this area. And then he does return, and it is only you, the bartender, your second in command, and the bouncer that appears to have done a little boo boo.
Oh, where's my first one?
Oh, he is by your side as well, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Got confused there for a second. Yeah, I'm
it
going. I'm going to call the Invictus people. I'll
Okay.
be on the side of the room and kind of like having a little bit of privacy while also surveying the whole room,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that nothing goes even worse than it already is, because it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty damn bad.
Yes. Okay, so you call, um, you being within the Invictus know that they are very busy people. They have cities, plural, to run. Um, and they have a lot of people with whom to speak and make deals with. So it is not a surprise when it rings for quite a while. Every ring extended again. You are waiting again. The lifeless corpse is there, staring at you with its beginning to get milky eyes. Maybe that's a bit too quick. It's staring at you with its lifeless eyes, nonetheless, um, as if accusing you of your faults, of you did this to me. Clearly, it's not. It's a dead body and it can't emote, but it is this sensation that you've failed in your seat of power. You've allowed a fly to come into your web, and then a frog come, leap, bite that fly, eat your prey, and destroy your home. And as that emotion, that sensation, floods into your senses, hi there, my name's Jennifer. Well, how can I help you this evening?
Hello, this is Tatiana Kravchenko from the Velvet Rose.
Hi
Um,
there.
there has been an incident in my club. I will need some assistance.
I see. Allow me to connect you with people that might be able to help you a little bit more. Please hold. And you hear this sickening elevator music kind of thing just ringing in your head, and yet again, you are made to wait. Only this time, it's not that long. When one of the Invictus calls and asks for assistance, people tend to stop what they're doing. You hear a familiar voice on the other end. Yes? Who is this?
This is Tatiana Kravchenko from the Velvet Rose. Mr. Otto, is that you?
It might be. What have you gotten yourself into now, Tatiana?
There has been an incident in the club. Uh, a friend of my girls has been found hung in my backstage room.
Oh dear, one of your toys broke, did it? I hope you had insurance.
This isn't the point here, Mr. Otto. Uh, it appears to be suicide, however, I'm not comfortable with just passing it off as one. If there is any foul play here, I want to find out. Would you be able to assist me?
That is something that I can do. You wish for discretion.
Yes, certainly.
This will not be cheap. I will have you know this. People to talk to, files to pull, media outlets to mislead. It is going to be quite pricey, Miss Tatiana.
You know that these are no issues for me.
No, but for legal reasons, I had to let you know. I will be there shortly.
Thank you. I will be expecting you. Please use the back entrance.
Will do. Goodbye, madam. And
Goodbye,
then,
mister.
without hearing whatever you have to say, he hangs up. Guess what, Mistress Tatiana? You're made to wait again. Then we shift our focus as Mistress Tatiana marinades in her failure to provide safety for all of her patrons. Andrew Zillick, are you still with us?
Yep, I am still here.
I have good news and bad news for you.
Well, as they say in the Force, bad news first.
The bad guy is already dead. Good news. This would be an easy job to do. Oh, and I almost forgot. This is the source of that absolutely exquisite, bordering on intoxicating smell. You have arrived at the Velvet Rose. What would you like to do?
Well, he's going to find a place to park his vehicle. He's going to have a look around. I'm imagining outside things are mostly calm.
It is very ominous. You are in the eye of a storm, it appears. Because, yes, outside it appears like the world has no idea that an incident has happened. But you know better. You know better.
He's going to have himself a smoke because this isn't going to be as easy as he first thought.
And what makes you think that, Mr. Andrzejczyk?
Oh, well, there is the issue of the fact that he lives a bit of a double life.
Oh?
Something
Been to the
inside of
Velvet
him.
Rose before?
No, it's a bit more literal than that. Oh, yes, whatever's inside of him certainly enjoys feeding. But the outside doesn't always agree with the inside.
I see. But you're going to have a smoke? The people inside that are dealing with their chaos and grief and pain, you'll make them wait?
Just a moment or two, just to prepare himself.
Just steady the nerves to get very professional.
By the time he's approaching the door, he has that stern, steeled, steady hand you would expect from an officer of the law.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you do open the door, you are greeted with quite the contrast. First of all, it is opulent, luxurious, but it is not over the top. It is a beautiful color palette of pinks, dark reds, blacks, whites. It is the colors of passion and sensuality, but nothing is crass or perverted. This entire establishment is art and on the high end. But you also see women crying, their makeup running, they appear to be quivering. The population
Yeah.
that would usually be within this establishment, no,
I hate to interrupt. May I step away for a moment, please?
you may. And while we wait for Mr. Andrzejczyk, I would like to remind everyone that life has a funny way of being fine, dandy, all according to plan one moment. And all it takes is one small, tiny, seemingly insignificant variable to be inserted into a situation and for a life to crumble. Mistress Tatiana, what are we to do with you? You hear a knock at the back door.
She will make a nod to one of her personal guards to go and open the door.
The individual that was providing CPR and has now given up has taken it upon himself to go to the door and to open it as per your instruction. There standing is a tall, slightly older gentleman. You can see a bit of grey in his beard, but the hair on his head is as black as, well, cement, I suppose, tar. And his eyes are analytical, heartless, calculating, and appear to drink every detail that comes within his field of vision. But we see that Andrew Zillick is back, so I will put this on pause. Mr. Zillick, you see women crying. They appear to be performers, as for what they are wearing, and how they all seemed to know each other and be comfortable. Well, comfortable in the area that they are in. The clientele appear to have been, well, they're not here. Let's say that.
So he'll take a moment, and it's about as bad as he expected. While the outside chaos is one thing, the chaos on the inside is almost worse.
Mm.
He is looking out, and he is seeing people they've been victimized. Something traumatic has happened, but on him on the inside, this is a smorgasbord. This is everything he needs to subsist upon.
You've denied yourself a proper meal, perhaps since you were first devoured or enlightened by the Dark Mother, whichever way you wish to prefer. This is a succulent meal worthy of kings.
Well, for the moment, he is going to keep his appointment. But the thought in the back of his mind isn't easily passed off, we'll say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Where do you travel? What do you do? Who do you speak with? How does this detective function?
Well, gathering the details was the first step when it came to his education. And he hasn't been at it very long, but the steps in this particular case should be very simple. And the first step would be to find who's in charge. And if he's not mistaken, in this particular establishment, that would be a certain Mistress Krevenchenko.
Met her before, or did you do your research on the way?
He has a bit of a good memory, we'll say. And if you've walked the beat a few times, you see names and placards and awards and this, that, and the other, and she is very proud of what she does.
It is very true. It is a very highly respected and very sought after establishment. People have to make appointments to get in. Sometimes it gets so insanely crazy. But this time it's crazy for another reason. You feel confident in the fact that Mistress Tatiana is the owner. But is she in this evening? I guess you'll have to go look.
Something is giving him a bit of a direction. He knows she's here somewhere. It just takes a bit of walking.
For the ladies, gentlemen, and the extra dimensional beings beyond said labels, watching at home, work, or wherever they are, could you tell us what is guiding him? What exactly is he employing here?
The horror inside of him has quite a nose for direction. And seeing as he knows of Mistress Tatiana, it only takes a moment, a little bit of concentration, and he is given a direction. He wouldn't know distance, time, or anything else required, but a direction and the nice club is enough to put one and one together.
A very good detective. It does not take you very long at all to find yourself drawn to the the source of all that delicious suffering. Source is an apt word to use because it's also kind of like a sauce for food. Mistress Tatiana, we go to you now.
Mm-hmm.
Otto stands rigidly. He does not blink. He does not purse his lips. He does not twitch a facial muscle. He is like a statue made out of flesh. And he just stares at you, waiting.
Um, this is inside or at the entrance?
He has not yet come in. He is just standing at the threshold
Okay,
of the
then
back door.
I will walk towards him and greet him personally.
Mm.
Mr. Otto, please come in. Good evening.
Good evening, madam. Oh dear. Oh dear. And you did invite him in, sorry?
Yes.
Yes. Well, he will accept this invitation and come into your establishment, and he immediately begins to look around. And it's almost like watching a well oiled machine. He just moves his head, his eyes scanning like a laser and absorbing, no, judging everything that has happened here. He looks at the crimson uh, noose. He looks at your staff. You almost see a bit of distaste in the eyes, but his facial expressions do not change. And then his eyes, cold as winter, lock on to Andrew Zillick. Who is that? Mr. Zillick, you see a man dressed almost like a man in black kind of situation. He's got a very refined tuxedo. He has a pocket square. He has a tie that is almost a bit too tight for someone to be comfortable, but he appears to be moving around just fine. He has what is that thing called? A lapel, I think, is what it is.
A lapel?
A lapel, thank you. I'm Australian. And it is put on the appropriate area, and that symbol appears to be an upside down pyramid with a scepter in the middle.
Well, if he's seen him before, he would certainly remember.
Mm-hmm.
An eidetic memory is very handy to have for a detective in
You
training.
have not seen this person before.
Interesting.
He should have though, because he's
No, not this man. This man works through others.
Has he seen this symbol before?
I think so. And
So at
you
least
would know
he
this
could
to be
gather that this would be where he'd be receiving not so much orders, but suggestions.
Mm-hmm. This appears to be let's call them a cousin. That's right. You have this knack of sniffing out extra interesting people, and there appears to be two in the room. Unless I'm wrong.
It's it is a sense he is still attempting to fathom, understand, refine, although it seems no effort of his goes into it. Um, the fact that the mistress and the gentleman both give the same feeling tells him at least that he can categorize it.
Mm-hmm. And what do you categorize them?
A kindred.
Mm. Well, here is what you do know. You know that they are special. You know that Mistress Tatiana is perhaps the most stunning female specimen that you have ever done seen. And this man is the embodiment of. Perhaps you'll turn into him one day if you throw yourself at work too often, because he appears to only work, no pleasure.
Yeah, I just realized that I do still have the O activated. Shit.
You do. I'm glad you picked up on that because,
Yeah.
yes, this is why you are so drawn to Mistress Tatiana, on top of her stunning looks. Enough to cut through a calcified heart, if I do say. But Otto has not received an answer. Ma'am?
I would like to know that as well. May I help you, sir?
Andrew, I'll go with it, why not? Spends a much longer moment than he should have gazing at her face. And it's probably the fact that he spends 5 or 6 moments longer than usual that actually snaps him out of something for a moment before he only slightly glances at the other man.
He
My
is so
credentials.
boring and mundane. It is almost painful to look away at Tatiana.
Yes, my credentials. And he'll casually but slowly enough reach into a coat pocket to produce the stereotypical leather bound badge, the shine. Officer Zillick, uh, Detective Pending.
Detective
Pending.
Selleck. Pleasure to meet you. I'm Mistress Tatiana Kravchenko. And she will extend her hand. Because politeness is the thing.
Well, he could say many things about his experience with women, but this would be something he hasn't experienced very often. He assumes he's meant to take her hand and then kiss the back of it.
Mistress Tatiana. He takes your hand and kisses the back of it. You can almost feel Otto's eyes on you, digging in. But he will clear his throat. I'm Mr. Black, and I will be here to help.
Yes, that would be the reason, wouldn't it? And he looks back toward the lovely complexion she's so graciously brought to such a horrible scene. Her problem specifically. I was told there may be something of a removal and that I was here to make sure there was nothing out of the ordinary going on.
He, unless Tatiana wishes to respond.
No, she will take a step back and allow the professionals to profess.
Mm. He takes a step forward as the club owner steps to the side. It is strange. Otto will look at this lovely angel and says, "Perhaps you should be more kind to our detective. Your beauty is distracting." And he almost laces those words with an underlying message, because you are in Otto's presence, so he can feel it too, but he
Yeah.
knows what you are and how it works.
Certainly, Mr. Otto. I will have to attend to my girls anyway.
Hmm.
As soon as you're done here, I expect you upstairs in my office. Perhaps they can help you with questioning.
Who are you directing this question to?
To Otto.
To Otto? All right.
Yeah.
It might appear that us two men will be going up at the same time. But yes, run along. Go tend to your girls.
And then she'll turn and look at Mark,
Hmm.
and she'll turn. And you're not going anywhere. We have to talk about this. Answer any questions that they have.
Yes, ma'am. Andrew, the uncomfortableness, the anxiety, the horror, the psychological hemorrhaging that is bleeding out of this Mark figure. Ooh, you almost drool again. Whenever Tatiana speaks specifically at him, you feel just more waves of deliciousness. And perhaps it is this moment, now that he has been commanded to not leave, your particular flavoring flares up. He is trapped in this building with something and someone he does not want to be in.
It's almost reflexive at this point. He's been watching Mistress Tatiana's every move and simply following her towards this moment of command. He can't even help not to watch, and just the act of watching is enough.
What is it exactly that you were doing?
Andrew would be sating himself in the act of watching this poor stagehand, perhaps, being told that not only may he not leave, but he must remain near the source of this extreme duress.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can make your roll if you haven't already done so. It appears you can take care of that mechanically, but yes,
I don't see too much of a reason for it, to be honest.
yeah. You do definitely. It is very satisfying. This is what a meal should feel like. Not as much as you'd like. You got the very thin slice of a cheat day food that you wish you could just devour whole, but you, with much chagrin, only take a thin slice.
Andrew is rather sure there's a main course coming up.
Perhaps Mistress Tatiana, have you gone upstairs?
Yes, I have exited the backstage and have gone upstairs to check on the two women.
All right. I have been favoring you quite heavily this evening, so I will be putting a little bit more emphasis on Andrew for a little bit. But I do want you to know that when you do reach the top of the stairs and look into the apartment that contains the two women and Mr. Jackson, um, Chelsea appears to have passed out. Um, and Sophia has gone back into that state of fugue, this disassociation, and Mr. Jackson looking way in over his head. So that is what I will leave you with for now, but I will come back to you. Um, when this nocturnal being of perfection exits the immediate area, now you realize, oh, fancy that. There's a carcass on the ground.
That's interesting. All right, fair enough. Yes, this should not have. This shouldn't be surprising. And he spends a moment or two to compose himself. I'll have to remember that for later.
She is a very beautiful woman, but very distracting. I noticed you said Detective Pending. Is this your first case?
I have assisted in a handful of cases.
But is this your first case?
On my own, yes. To be fair, this should have been given to me a year from now. I am very much so ahead of schedule.
Well, overachiever, what do you think happened this evening? It seems to be quite cut and dry to me, honestly.
It does very much look like a suicide, unfortunately.
Hmm.
And he'll take a look around. He doesn't seem to mind Otto being there so much.
Mhm.
That isn't what's bothering him. He's looking to see if the other employees have been moved away, other than, unfortunately, the one who had been told to stay.
It appears that the only people that are in this room with you, as you do a cursory perimeter check and what have you, there is the man by the door that let Otto in, and he is standing by the door because that is what he was instructed to do. And there is a young, maybe 26-year-old man who is just who seems to be speaking to medical emergency people. And he's in the corner covering the other ear so he can better focus the adrenaline and the heart kind of beating in his ears. And he's trying so hard to concentrate. Of course, there is Mark, who is very uncomfortable and not moving. And I believe that was the only other person in the room.
So, out of those present, one is very stoic, has the impression that he wouldn't be asking many questions of his employer. The other one, Mr. Black, he's not at all worried about. And the third has more or less been told to sit down, shut up, and cooperate. So I suppose Andrew isn't very worried about him either. And he's going to ask him a very simple line of questions. When was the body found? And do be specific.
This is to Mark, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay. So it was About 6:12, 6:15.
And that number seems to be in your mind because just a feeling?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. 6:20, we'll say.
All right.
All right, let's see. And now he's going to get closer to the unfortunate in front of him. So there isn't too much he can look through here, I don't believe. However, he does have his investigations. Would you actually, I think I'll do this one better instead. Let's see. So at this point, you'll probably notice the prop closet.
Yes.
And he would notice that it seems that this is where the body was found and this is where it was moved from.
Yes, it has been moved. The body has been moved.
Well then, let's see what happens if I take a closer look. And he'll step into the closet, probably mostly out of sight.
No plastic on your shoes. Aren't you worried about contamination? Detective pending?
He's not really there to touch anything so much
This is
as
what
to.
Otto was saying.
Oh, Otto. Ah, yes.
Yes. Easy to forget about him, I see.
Well, he was nodding off there for a second. No, I'm not here to touch anything just yet. Just to get a closer look. You'll excuse me if I don't say anything for about 20 or 30 minutes.
He just gestures with his hand.
And Andrew will push his senses backwards in time, actually. This would be an epic application of direction sense. His sense at this point is being augmented by the primordial dream. Now, due to his friend, he was given a time of around 6:20, and he's going to push his senses back. Unfortunately, maybe 40 minutes before even that.
Before 6:20? All right.
Now, what he will be able to see is where he presently is, mostly inside the closet. So, once he is there, time will move forward normally. So, if he continued to wait the whole, we'll say an hour and a half, he would eventually even see the three of them approach the closet and himself step inside. So.
Okay. Have you recorded your expenditure of will?
Yes, I have.
Perfection. And your question is?
What happens? He is assuming at the moment that when he opens his eyes, he is either going to find a very empty closet, or he's going to find, within a few minutes, that someone is going to enter the closet.
I see. Okay. You are greeted with an interesting monkey wrench. Because when you do open your eyes, It is at the time that the door is opened, and an already lifeless body is being strung up in that crimson ribbon noose by a mysterious second individual. They appear to have a masculine frame. However, they are dressed head to toe in all black. They have gloves, and it appears they have a white dollar store mask. But that is a figure who is stringing up an already dead individual. That dead individual matching the description of the one that now lays outside of the closet. Detective Andrew Zillick, according to what you are seeing right now, if your senses can be trusted, this is not a suicide, but in fact, a murder.
And he waits. And he waits. He watches every move.
The individual that strings up the already dead young man, no older than 21, they do so with such ruthless, maybe not even ruthless. There is no emotion, no remorse, no regret in their action. They do it as if it was their singular purpose. This was casual, yet professional. They do it with such ease, such confidence, but not confidence going into the realms of ego.
Anything different about the body then versus now?
There are bruises around his neck, matching that of like a grip from hands.
So he may have been strangled to death.
It is a possibility.
Not unlike a victim of hanging.
But you cannot be sure.
Fair enough.
He could have died from other reasons. You might have known or heard stories when we were back at the precinct of truly monstrous human beings that would stab, shoot, burn, fondle a corpse and beyond, despite it being dead. So it is really impossible to know how he died. You only know with absolute surety that he was placed in this prop closet, that there were bruises matching hands on his neck, and he was hung up here and left. And if you do continue to wait, you will see a woman, a young woman, a performer. You didn't see this performer with your exceptional memory. You would know this. You did not see this individual when you came in. Those 5 girls in the corner holding themselves. She was not among them, but she opened the door and she screamed and went into shock.
And here is the moment that the inside of him has been waiting for. The absolute shock. 2 things happen. The first of which is that he is going to sate himself again. But this actually took effort to do. This took patience. This took self-denial. The payoff, however, is better still. Not like the first time he sated himself, but This was the type of main course he'd been waiting for. The second thing that is going to happen is that unfortunately he will have to give up some of that satiety because he wants to do something he hasn't done before. This voice in the back of his head had given him the idea, and surprisingly, it wasn't that difficult to do. The building itself, and more specifically this closet, is spacious, but isn't so unlike home. It's dark after all. But more importantly, it's closed in. He does spend some of the satiety that he earns to create a chamber and then claims it for himself. In this shocking moment of horror,
you anoint this place with the primordial. This is a place in which a person has died, in which another has committed a crime against humanity, the sin of murdering another. And of course, the very same place as someone who has experienced both heartbreak and true horror to the point of shock. Real shock, the kind that requires that alfoil looking wrapping around them to prevent actual organ failure. But if you go through the correct expenditures, rolls, and whatnot, yes, you have this place now. It is yours, or at least something that looks very much like it is now part of your home. And the primordial realm, it adores its extension. And your inner self, your true self, you can hear it. Maybe it's chittering, maybe it is wheezing, or perhaps you do not even need to hear anything, but you do know that it is very, very happy.
he was hoping to do a few things from this particular trip of sorts, but the fact that he was able to do so this smoothly, well, he can't explain it many other ways. It makes him rather happy.
It is a very magical moment to feel accomplished, to feel like you have made headway, real progress. Aren't we glad that all it took was a murder, heartbreak, horror, and death? You are a good person, Doctor? Detective Zillick.
Well, his legend is relentless.
The chase has begun.
Well, either way. He did say 30 minutes, and while it hasn't quite been that long, the vision fades. His eyes open, and while he had been leaning against the wall of the inside of this closet, he straightens, rolls one of his shoulders, and steps out.
When you do turn to look at the mouth of the prop closet, Otto is standing there, as straight and as rigid as a statue, and he seems to have been watching you watch the insides of your eyelids.
Oh, I do hate to say this, but unfortunately, he was already dead when he arrived.
What makes you think that?
Knowing your group, you don't ask for individuals who would simply look at the mundane. Now and again, you look for individuals who have vision, we'll say. My vision tells me this poor individual was carried here, already dead, and then strung up, casually. I don't know if they meant to cause chaos. I don't know if they were just covering their tracks.
Otto raises a finger to cut you off. One moment. He will then turn and look at the bartender, Tyler, I believe I said his name was, who is over. He doesn't hear everything that has been described, but he has heard some key phrases, and he seems to be quite taken back, and is beginning to get show signs of getting really emotional. Otto looks at him, says, I've got it from here. Hang up that phone. Go into the front with the couches and take a nap. Be a good boy. And it is as if that inner fire that makes a living person alive, it is blown out. That precious free will that burns bright is nothing against this man. And this young boy does exactly as he's told. He hangs up that phone, he goes into the front of that building, he lays down on that sofa, and he closes his eyes. He then looks at Mark. Stand there. Continue to do what your mistress has said. But you will not hear me or this man. Mark seems to become calm. Bother. He was rather tasty to be around. He then looks at the man near the door. You know better. And then he looks at you. I do apologize for what you had to witness. Proceed.
And he almost can't help it. Can you all do that?
Perhaps we can have a very interesting conversation about our many talents later. But we are on the clock.
Well, that's fine. And he will take a knee by the body. He will gesture towards the neck area. I do believe that if we looked closer, we would find evidence that this individual wasn't just hanged. We would find deeper trauma. I do believe I shall have to point this out. It may be missed.
Mm-hmm. Did you bring with you gloves, or must I provide them for you?
And he reaches into his back pocket and brings out a pair.
It is good that you can think ahead. You are... Perhaps I've underestimated you, Detective Zilek. Go on. You have my undivided attention now. And he is still standing very straight. He's not kneeling down. He's looking down at both you and the corpse.
Unfortunately, Andrew isn't entirely sure what he's looking at outside of an investigation to dots of 2.
You may roll either. Let's go with either wits and investigation or composure and investigation. Composure to remain concentrated and not distracted.
I do believe wits would work better for me.
Mm-hmm.
Oop. I keep forgetting to pause this when I'm typing.
It's all good. Because of your vision, I will give you an quote equipment bonus of a +1.
Well, 3 successes.
3 successes. You go through the routine that you have been trained to do, and you learned very, very quickly. You put on your gloves. You make sure that you do not put any uncovered body part on something that could potentially be used as evidence later on. And you, with quite a bit of difficulty, the person that did this noose is very good at making nooses. But with a bit of time, you undo that noose and you slip it away. And you almost don't see it because the bruising, post-mortem, but the bruising that the tight noose made covers up. But you see some, maybe 3 finger outlines that go above the section that was bruised by the ribbon. So it almost completely covered it up, but not quite.
It wouldn't be easy to get a picture of it, but Andrew will attempt to collect 1 or 2 pictures.
Mm-hmm. And with your investigation further, because you did get 3 successes, you noticed that underneath his fingernails, not flesh, unfortunately, no hair, nothing, no blood, nothing that can immediately stand out to be, aha, this can be used for biological whatsits. No, this appears to be black. There's black under his fingernails. Would you like to smell it?
Has Andrew seen this before?
Black under the fingernails could be anything. There is a broad range of possibilities as to what black under fingernails could mean.
Well, he's not entirely sure, at least, if some of them were poisonous, but this is,
Or perhaps less of a sniff and more leaning down to look at it a bit more. Sniffing at a corpse is a bit impolite.
Andrew will at least do that.
Okay. You do look in and you see that it doesn't appear to be from a person. Perhaps it is ink, dye, cotton, some maybe paint, dirt, metal shavings, or leather. a lot of possibilities, a lot of variables, but at least you've ruled out that it is something, biological.
Well, Andrew is only going to guess that if he can get a murder investigation opened, they would probably want. Ah, that makes sense. He is going to have to swab some of these.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing too fancy.
No. You have a look to see for any other injuries, and you notice that when you open his mouth, he has bitten his tongue off. Or maybe it was crudely severed. Matter being, he has no tongue. He could have swallowed it. It could have been a trophy. Whatever the case, it is not where it's supposed to be. And that is all you find in your investigation. That is all. You found a lot of information in this investigation so far, just from this body alone. But that is all you find.
Well, he will take 1 or 2 pictures of that, and he hopes he has enough to open a murder investigation.
You are very good, Detective Pending. Who do you think would have done this? I know you have very little information, unless you know something I do not.
I wouldn't know who. He was wearing a mask. But I certainly know where. Unfortunately, where isn't enough.
How did you see this ruffian's masked face? Forgive me, you were inside the prop closet with your eyes closed.
How indeed. Some of us are a bit more persuasive than others. Some of us see a bit further than others.
Yes, I very much would like to have that chat later. Is there anyone else that you'd like to speak with?
No, mostly my interest is going to take all this evidence, take it back to the station, and attempt to open a murder investigation. I do believe the mistress of this establishment would fare much better if the city saw her as the victim as opposed to a potential actor.
Yes, well, she most certainly is a victim. Why would she do something so foolish? In her own place? No. But I understand that the sheeple will have a tendency to believe anything spoon-fed to them. I like you, fucking Detective Zillick. But unfortunately, the body will not be going with you yet.
I wouldn't have expected it. There are those far better trained in it, after all.
Yes. And my people, well, our people, we are somewhat specialized in finding information that people might overlook. Just like you. Different methods, maybe, but the results are exceptional.
I suppose handing these over to the main office wouldn't do as much good then. And it mostly all fits into one packet anyway, and surely a packet like that would fit into a coat pocket.
What a thing to say. Perhaps you should speak with Mistress Tatiana. If not, do you have everything you needed?
Yes, it seems or sounds like you mean to have this looked at by a professional,
Yes,
and that would
discreetly.
that would very much align with my goals.
If you will give me. That was rather abrasive of me, I apologize. If you would be so kind as to provide some contact information, I might be able to forward the information that our professionals find onto you. I see no reason why we should not form a good relationship. A detective like you, in an organization like ours, you could help a lot of people.
Andrew will offer him a card.
He will reach out, and it is clear he is not a machine, but the way he acts is uncomfortable. Not so much jerky, it is just so without emotion.
You
And
wouldn't
he
think you wouldn't think someone could lift their arm exactly 2 meters off the ground to exactly grasp a card between his middle and third finger every
exactly,
single time, and yet that's
ex-
how he acts.
absolutely, you get it. And he will take that card and he will put it inside of his like the actual inside of his coat pocket.
Well, I suppose it is a wonderful time to mention that making friends and meeting new people is exactly what I've been working on the side, you might say.
Mm, well, if you prove to be as as an overachiever as you have suggested, perhaps I can speak to a couple of people, see that you are given an office, given a title, given the tools of the trade.
Well, then I believe that would be something I owe you.
We can discuss the logistics another time, but I would very much appreciate if you were to mull it over until I contact you again. But if that is all,
Yes, I do believe I should go speak with Mistress Tatiana.
mm, I see her very name causes the tongue to twist. Careful with that one, boy. She is as sweet as a rose. Like this club, the Velvet Rose. Something's dead inside. Do tell her I said hello.
Hmm. And here I thought you would tell me to mind the thorns. You,
That was the first sign of actual emotion you have experienced with this man. It was dry. It was not. It was not comfortable at all. But he does let out like a one syllable "ha," and then replies with in quite quickly, quite quick wittedly. No, that is far too cliche and overdone.
but it is usually accurate.
I think my description of having something dead inside is far more accurate.
Hmm. I suppose I can't argue that. Well, I shall go make my report. I shall go ask her a few more simple questions, although it seems now the line of questioning is far more different.
Mm, we'll run along.
And he does. He'll make his way. The way that he saw everyone else go a few moments, many more than a few moments ago at this point.
Mm-hmm. As you do exit the back room, you do see the obedient young man taking a nap on the lounge. Should you look over your shoulder, you would see Otto standing again, very still, without emotion, staring, watching as you ascend the stairs. And he remains there until line of sight is cut, in which case you don't know where he could be. But I will now cast my attention back towards our lovely Mistress Tatiana. Are you still with us?
Yep.
Oh dear. What has happened? I will tell you what has been given to you again. Can you guess?
Um,
More waiting.
yeah. Well, there are things to do at least.
Yes, there
Like
is.
upstairs, I would have definitely instructed Mr. Jackson to move Chelsea, who is passed out, to the bedroom and make sure she's comfortable. I would have a change of clothes for Sophia and make sure she's like okay enough to, function.
She doesn't seem to be speaking. She doesn't seem to want to move. She kind of seems like she's I wouldn't even say, you know, when you just kind of zone out of a conversation, or like you wish you were anywhere but here and you kind of leave your body in a way. That's
Mm.
kind of what she's experiencing, but quite heavily. It's very difficult to kind of get her to focus because she keeps drifting off, psychologically disconnecting from the situation. Chelsea's very easy to handle. She's light, she's not resisting, she's passed out, she's not a problem.
Yeah, I still have the on though, so she would have to pay attention to me anyway.
She you can see that she's fighting against her broken mind to pay attention to you. But even your grace, your beauty, it can only caress um, the shattered mind so much.
And then I will pour her a drink.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's always a good idea, right?
Mm-hmm. That is an action you are doing. She will accept the drink if given it, and she
Yes.
will scull it down like it was a shot, even though it wasn't in a shot glass, and the amount of alcohol in it was not appropriate to scull. But she did. She needs it. Mr. Jackson kind of looks at you. It's clear that, you know, this horrified woman is not going to be paying attention to him. And he kind of pulls out like a little vial with a little clear something in it, and then his eyes gesture to her drink, and then to you questioningly.
Um, what am I to understand from that? Is that some kind of a sedative or?
You can believe whatever you wish. You've not had him do this before.
I will give him a very questioning look.
He'll kind of rest his head to the side and close his eyes as if to kind of very briefly mimic the action of sleeping.
Here's the thing, I can't yet allow that because she's probably needed for questioning, so not yet. I'll just tell him to hold off a bit.
You talk
But
verbally to him.
no, a gesture to him like
You
hold it
shake your
for
head. Yeah.
and do a gesture with my hand like in a weight motion
Mm-hmm.
because she might need to, you know, she needs to be able to at least maybe talk.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Right.
Well, like a good toy at your disposal, he does exactly as instructed. She's not talking, though.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just sit beside her and give her an embrace and just, be supportive.
Mm.
Because that's what we're supposed to be doing. It's supposed to be safe in here. I'm not
Yeah,
doing well. I'm shook.
it was supposed to be safe. But just to point out, when you were waiting in your private booth to hear back on information, you thought that was long. When you took the walk to the back room, you thought that was very long. When you had that conversation on the phone to get Otto out here and to help you, that was very, very long. You have been sitting in this room for about an hour, so you've been in here for what seems like eternity. In this eternity, is there anything you would have done while the detective was doing what he was doing downstairs?
Well, apart from saying to the girls, I would probably check the paperwork to see that indeed, yeah, it was Mark that was supposed to be looking after this closet. Somehow he
It
failed to do
would
so.
it would be that information would be accessed via your digital records because you are the boss. You get to know who clocks in, who clocks out, kind of thing. That is the information you would have. Um, and because the papers that you had at your disposal last was just, it was agreements, it was business things. It wasn't, you know clocking in and clocking out information. But with the wonders of technology, you are able to pull up that information very, very quickly. And yes, you confirm without a shadow of a doubt that Mark was on duty when this body was found.
The other thing I would do is instruct Mr. Jackson to pull up the camera feed from the entrance, see when Dalton came in, so that at least I have some timeline of
Yeah,
how or when did this happen, so I can have something to at least help with the investigation. Because
into the club or into the back room.
into the club there is no camera on the back, although
Yeah.
there will be after that, because there's only a camera in the front entrance. Uh, yeah, pretty much.
hmm He does as instructed and goes onto the computer and he pulls up that camera feed and he turns the screen so that you can see it. And you see at about an hour before opening, he came to the back entrance. Wait, you said there was a camera at the back entrance?
Uh, it's one at the front. At the back there is, but it's not as clear as the one in the front, because
Mhm.
the back is mostly for the girls and the staff. So
Mhm.
it's
Well, that's problematic, isn't it? Because yes, he did come to the back. You do see that it is him. It's grainy. It's not good lighting. Whatever. But it is him. You've seen him enough to know it's him. And the door opened, but it opens in such a way that the camera cannot see who accepted him inside. But someone opened the door for him. Could have been one of the girls. It could have been Chelsea. It could
Mhm.
have been any one of them. And then that was the last time you saw him alive before he died in your club. Any
Uh,
other camera footage you'd like me to pull up,
uh,
ma'am?
well, for now, she wouldn't suspect anything out of the ordinary, so it would be a waste of time to go through the whole
Mm-hmm.
evening. But she would request to make the footage available to the investigators, the full
Yep.
footage of all the evening, both front and back entrance.
Mm-hmm. He begins this process. Is there anything else that you would have done during the hour that the detective was downstairs?
Sit on calls, because that's what it feels like.
Yes, you are in the firing line. You are under so much scrutiny. This was never supposed to happen, but it did. And now all it takes is one small whisper to the tabloids, and you're fucked, because you would then need to go to the law enforcement. You would need to attend appointments that you can't do because your fair complexion wouldn't look so fair in the daytime. So this is a potentially fatal error. Congratulations. Is there anything else that happened?
Hmm. I don't think so. I think I'm good for now.
Okay. Andrew, we go to you. Are you still with us?
Yes.
Okay. You make your way up the stairs. There is a closed door. This must be where the others are. This woman is. This woman. There is no this woman. The woman. The woman of your dreams. And you didn't think you could have dreams anymore.
Well, not nightmares at least.
Mm.
He uh he takes a moment, a breath or two. Just because he knows how he could be affected, somehow doesn't seem to change his perception on how likely it is.
Mm-hmm.
But he does grip the door handle, give it a turn, and at least attempts to put up a brave face as he steps into the room.
I'm going to propose one of two things to happen. Either you can try to shake off this really good feeling. Her attention is kind of like silk on your skin and soul with a clash of wills. Or you can give me a lie like a roll to lie to kind of put up that face of yours. Which one would you like?
Andrew would attempt to shake off this effect.
Okay, so it would be a clash of wills. Um,
I think it's wits plus composure roll, something like that, but I don't understand the wording.
Wits plus composure. Anyone paying attention to him also subtracts his majesty dots from any wits plus composure rolls, so that's not it. With the word, he can summon anyone, blah, blah, blah. Another, no. Nope. Wits and composure is the roll to pay attention to anything except for you.
Oh,
So
okay,
not quite, not quite.
okay.
You might actually be able to spend a willpower, but only if they are physically present or aware of the promise question. No, okay, so yes, clash of wills for me, please.
The heck? Excuse me.
Okay.
Was there another thing dropping off?
Well, we are not sponsored by Amazon or Uber Eats, but they've come to us anyway. I will give you this, though, Mistress Tatiana. You have conducted yourself very, very well. You have executed everything that you possibly could after the incident masterfully. You managed to use discretion as much as you could in the situation. You have contacted someone that knows what to do and has the skills to pull it off. And you have put yourself in a position in which you would be left alone for the most part. So it is not all doom and gloom. You have been very clever, very smart, and Your survival instinct is top notch. So there is a little bit of light for you. Are we back, Andrew?
Yes.
Are we all good?
Uh-huh.
Okay. But yes, clash your wills for me, please, both of you.
What do I have to?
Um, sorry, let me just having a look at that right now. Each using a pool of his blood potency plus his dots in the discipline. So I need you to roll. This is specifically from you, Tatiana. Put your blood potency and your majesty dots, however many dots in majesty you have, add them together. That is your die pool, and you will roll it for me. And for beast, I'm not sure. I will have a look.
This is gonna be bad. This is gonna suck. This is one measly success.
One is something.
Roll lair plus their highest resistance attribute.
There you go.
All right, then.
And both of you, because you are physically present, if you would like to spend a willpower, you can add an additional 3 dice on top of that. That was my bad. I should have said that before. Usually you have to say it before you make the roll, but because this was my error, Tatiana, if you would like to spend a willpower point to roll 3 more dice, you can.
I don't think I would. It's not something that I consider to be essential. It's not that I'm actively trying to him. I just have the effect active. That was for another person, so I'm not necessarily like if he resists it, it won't like kill him.
I'd say Andrew will, just because he is digging his heels in.
So you can add an additional 3 dice on top of that. You need to get 2 successes or above. 2 successes at 3? No, 2 successes. Well done. I'm assuming you're opening the door.
No knocking?
I don't know. I'm pausing because I don't know what he's doing. Are you opening the door? Are you knocking? What exactly are you doing?
Yes, he just. Well, I guess he would think to knock first.
So you do knock. You hear the knocking, but I would like to describe to you the sensation of this silken, seductive, unseen presence. It begins to get brittle and scabby and dry and ashy and flaky, and then it just pops and disappears as if you were being caressed by an ashen ghost the entire time. And you simply do not feel that magic anymore. She's a pretty face, but she's a client.
May I come in?
Certainly, please. Please come in.
Andrew will step inside.
And go ahead and play off each other. I'm very curious to see how this works out.
Well, would you prefer bad news or good news?
See, we'll look towards where Sophia is sitting, and then we'll look back at Andrew. Detective, if possible, let's try to be as thoughtful as possible in Sophia's presence. After all, she was the one who discovered him. Um, do you need anything of her?
No, I would have no questions for your employees.
Oh. Um,
That is
Okay,
a rather strange thing for him to say, Tatiana.
that is interesting. Not even Mark.
I had one or two for Mark, and he was very helpful.
Mm, okay, Mr. Jackson, please, could you escort Sophia to her home and please make sure she's safe and
Of course,
if she
ma'am.
needs anything, just just let me know. Okay?
Of course, I will drive her home personally. You will. Would you still require the company of Mr. Sherman and Mr. May?
Um. Well, they need to remain here with me, but let them wait outside my office. I will have a talk with Detective Zelig. I'm assuming Chelsea's still asleep.
That she is, ma'am.
All right. Send Mr. May to watch over her, and that will be all. Thank you.
Very well. And he will do, who guessed it, exactly as instructed.
And this is why he's head of security.
He's a good dog.
Oh
But
no.
yes, you are. Oh, yes. You are um, left somewhat alone. Um, the head of security leaves, but soon enough, Mr. May will come up and take his place because, Chelsea is still in the room with you guys. She's just unconscious.
No, she's not in the room. She was
Where was
moved.
she?
She was
Oh,
in the bedroom,
that's yes.
which
But
is a
she's still within
decent,
the.
yeah.
She's yeah. So Mr. May, you'll see him kind of. He will definitely knock first. He will announce himself and wait to be let in. If you do let him in, he will go. He will thank you, close the door, lock it, and go into the bedroom with this unconscious woman, and stand guard.
Yeah, good.
Now it's just the two of you.
Now, detective, please have a seat. Would you like a beverage, perhaps?
Yes, please. After all that, I do think it would be nice.
Do you have a preference?
Hmm.
I hate to
Something
interrupt.
something
Uh,
stronger than I like. I'm sorry?
I'm sorry to interrupt. I feel like now would be a very appropriate moment to ask Tatiana. You are faced with law enforcement, and Otto is not around. Um, can you make me a a composure plus subterfuge roll for me?
Uh, striking looks bonus applies?
You know what? Because you have smitten him so deeply. Yes,
Uh,
but you will not get your all roll.
No, not an oral. Just the extra two dice. Okay, so
I will allow it.
Oh, you are so over encumbered with this is just terrible.
okay. Ah, two successes.
So let's see. Oh, okay. And because I like being, this is just feeding into a great experience. Andrew, is the Batmobile going by? Oh my god. I'm sorry. This is Gotham. I would like you to make me a wits plus empathy, and you need to get at least 3 or above.
Would she be lying to him? I get the feeling it's not a statement she's making, but how
she's
she's
not
acting.
speaking. She's not. She's not. Mm,
Well, she's shook and she's trying to remain composed.
I would
So
say yes. She is trying to make you believe that she is feeling one way when she is really feeling another.
I will take a specialty dice. You said it was wits and empathy.
Correct. So you don't add a die. Tens now explode,
Oh, fair enough. I guess
which
I'll
is
have to.
arguably better.
I'll have to wait for things to change. I hope. D10.
Yeah, this is I know.
He once we figure out this bit, he was saying he wants to go back to the book, which
Which is good.
I would approve. But
Yeah.
if you want to keep things the way they are, that's fine.
Yeah. Would you like to?
Didn't get a single success.
Would you? She's just so pretty. Would you like to roll willpower at all? Oh, spend willpower at all. You've been
No.
quite generous with it. You should do it.
No,
just do a dramatic
unfortunately.
failure and get a beat.
Would you like a dramatic failure?
Unfortunately.
You do. Get a beat, my
Unfortunately.
dear. Get
Goodness.
a beat.
Goodness.
You now have the swooned condition. She really is pretty. As you focus on her face, her complexion is without blemish, without imperfection. She is sculpted after the gods. Nay, she is a god. And you, perhaps for the first time since that moment where you let that cheating, rancid, fetid, disloyal slut leave your home, she makes your heart beat in a way that that other one could never. You have the swoon condition. You're welcome. Now, roleplay.
But anyway,
Actually, I will need to, just for my own comfort and sadistic satisfaction, I will read out what swooned is. So everyone knows, including the people watching. Swooned, no, not soulless, not yet. Well,
Technically, yes.
Yeah. Swooning. Your character is attracted to someone and is vulnerable when they are concerned. He may have the proverbial butterflies in his stomach or just be constantly aware of the object of his affection. A character may have multiple instances of this condition, reflecting affection from multiple characters. He suffers a -2 die penalty to any rolls that would adversely affect the specified character, who also gains a +2 die bonus on any social rolls against him. If the specified character is attempting social maneuvering on the swooning character, the impression level is considered 1 higher. Maximum is perfect. Your resolution, your character does something for his love interest that puts him in danger, or he opts to fail a roll to resist a social action by the specified character. So, TLDR, you have -2 die penalties to basically go against anything that she wants from you right now. And she gets a +2 for social rolls against you. And if she wants to employ social maneuvering, her impression is 1 rank higher, which means less doors for you. Now that my sadistic moment is done, you may now continue.
I hope you had enough time to think of what beverage you want, because that's where we left it off. So, do you have a preference?
Oh, something stronger than I like, but maybe not as expensive as that dress you're wearing.
Hard to find in here. A good scotch. Would that suffice?
Oh, yes. Wonderful.
And she will open the decanter and fill a glass and give it to him. She won't have any for her because she can't drink because dead. And she will sit at the office chair and brace for impact.
And he does take a sip before he notices that she hasn't poured herself any. Ah, something else to add, I see. Well, today has been a day of learning. Oh, I do hate to give you bad news, though.
Well, how bad?
I would say the worst of it would be that the poor boy was dead by the time someone brought him into your establishment. I can't say what for.
That that cannot that cannot be. I saw the footage of him coming in. He was alive and well at the time.
And around what time was that?
That was about an hour before opening.
Now, how does that exactly line up with Andrew's own vision?
What you saw was within the confines of that closet, not the entire club.
True, just the time frame. He went back.
Oh.
He went back 45 minutes from 6:20 or so, so around 5:30 in the afternoon. I'm assuming,
Mm,
and opening would have been.
To be fair, it should have been later.
that is very true. Um, the maths are confusing, so I will give you this. The time frame that she is saying to you makes sense in the sense that he would have had enough time to get into the club and kind of do what he usually does there and then get murdered.
So it was at least an hour. He arrived at least an hour before
Yes.
that. Well, that is a chunk of time I haven't been able to look over, unfortunately. Could investigate a bit more, but
What an odd thing for him to say, Tatiana.
So what you're saying is that someone did this to him?
yes,
How
I
would you?
was. How do I know? A wonderful question. Um, I'm different, like yourself, but not like yourself.
I see.
The the voice in the back of my head calls me firstborn. I'm not sure if that means anything to you. It doesn't mean anything to me.
No, it doesn't mean anything to me either. But let's focus on the task at hand. What
That
evidence do you
almost
have?
stings for her to say that it doesn't matter, that a part of you doesn't matter. It kind of hurts.
Well, he has to grin and bear it. He's already giving her bad news. He can't be upset at a small slight now, could he?
No, but now you're making her feel. Mm. Oh dear, Andrew. Continue.
Well, maybe he will attempt to lighten the mood. It is the bad news, but the good news of it would be that no one will be able to say that you or anyone under your employ was the end of the poor soul. Um, I have found other proof, not through other means, that he was unfortunately dead before anyone under your employ found him, or before he was even placed in that closet.
Yes, but it happened within my club. This is a problem.
Yes, but only you know about that.
You don't understand. This is supposed to be a safe place for my employees, for my clients. This this changes things.
A motive? Interesting.
And how would it happen? I have security staff all over the place. Clearly someone wasn't manning their post as they should be. Maybe even more than one.
Well, I can't speak to that. I was technically only able to see the inside of the closet. However, I can say that there's maybe an hour of time missing around when he arrives on your camera and when I saw him being placed into the closet. The the face was masked. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised, but I do know where they are. However, a direction doesn't really get me much. The good news, the good news, however, would be that Mr. Black took an interest in the information I was able to uncover. I believe he is going to get a murder investigation opened.
Well, I would much like to know how this thing happened inside my club so that I'll make sure it will never happen again.
Oh, I do hate to say it, ma'am, but we live in Gotham. An unfortunate reality. I can at least, hopefully, open an investigation that leads to whoever responsible being taken off the streets. I would be able to say that they would never be able to do this in your club again. And if it happens that they are attached to a larger entity, I would say that they wouldn't be able to give you trouble either.
Is there any assistance that I can provide you, Detective?
The fact that he
How could
arrived
she
here,
help you?
What?
How could she help you? She is this woman, this being that is so perfect, wants to help you now. You've been helping her up until this point, but she is so generous, so saintly, so alluring, all the qualities that that other one did not have. And her attention is focused entirely on you. Hmm.
oh, I wouldn't dare.
But please, if there is anything I can do, I would be more than willing. After all, this happened under my watch. And I can't help but feel responsible for Dalton. He was well loved by my staff, and I was quite fond of him.
The fact that you had him on camera and at least proved that whoever got to him hadn't brought him in is certainly a point.
Well, you will have
Um,
full access to this footage as well. You can watch whoever came in or out of the club. Perhaps you'll be able to pick out who it was that did this. And if not, then at least we'll know that he might have found a different way in.
Now, obviously, she's not attempting to be dropping hints, but I guess Andrew's taking it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And
He's hopeful.
she can observe him attempting to loosen his collar more than once.
This is not new to you, Mistress Tatiana. You didn't get that title without earning it. You know when a man is hot under the collar. You host a burlesque club. It's what you do. It's what you unlive for.
It is. However, I would be very conservative in what I do because this might uh, um, be problematic for the investigation as a whole.
Oh,
Not
it
to
would be.
mention, not to mention, it might put me in a predicament as well. And lately, this has been happening quite a bit. So
Very
I will try to
dangerous.
control myself.
Yes, well, you will try. I do want to point out that the blood of the Deva runs through you, and while you have not fed on this admittedly fine specimen more than once, it would be so easy. He's loosening his collar, exposing that neck of his, those arteries, those veins. He smells human, a little extra than human, a little spice, a little kick, a little something beneath the surface that would be so tantalizing on the tongue. You have helped others see desires before. The Deva blood within you and the beast that coils next to your empty, aching heart almost whispers a siren song to you. Come now, just a little. It's been such a stressful night. What if we need a drink? Drink, Tatiana. Drink from him.
Oh boy.
He's offering himself to you. Just a little kiss.
I guess this is when I roll willpower.
Yes, it is.
Oh my god.
Your current willpower, please.
Yeah. See, it's a good thing I didn't spend any, because.
Oh, I wanted you to, though.
I
I didn't know that this was going to happen, but my god, that was amazing.
guess where all my XP goes next month. Okay, good. We're good. We're good. 3 successes.
Very well done.
Not today,
You-
Satan. Not today.
You
Well,
cannot deny that it was very tempting, very seductive. This Deva bloodline within you, this succubus. But you are Mistress Tatiana, and you will not become prey to your own selfish desires. No, someone died in your club under your watch, and anyone, especially your staff, could be the culprit. That little dirty delight will have to happen another time.
and not to mention that after recent events that of losing self-control, she's really even more headstrong to not
Yes, that
letting it.
embarrassment
Yeah.
rings very loudly in your mind.
So where were we?
You were now needing to do another awkward thing. Deny him.
Let's
To
not.
make it clear.
it's not awkward because he's not really.
Well, no, but
He's very subtle.
he seems to be getting a little flushed, a little more comfortable around you.
Well, then I'll turn the conversation back to business then. I think I will actually. Mm, mm, can I roll like persuasion to like get him to focus on on the serious things like
I
you know.
feel like that's not. He has the swoon condition. You have
Mm.
striking looks. You have him exactly where you want him. Unless Mr. Zillick would like to make it a roll, I think it would just happen.
Okay, so
Mr.
I
Zillick, would you
was.
like a roll?
I mean,
He probably would
here comes
now.
my comes my sadistic moment. Um, he is swooned, and
Mm-hmm.
all the rest of this is going on, and he has suddenly realized that in all of this, he hasn't actually asked one of the most important questions. That is to say, how is she doing in all of this? And hasn't anyone looked after her? She's done
Right.
quite a bit to look after her employees, the men. She's even gone so far as to obviously call in someone from her people.
Mr. Zillick, I have a proposition for you.
Hmm.
Would you like another beat?
Oh boy.
You said you were wanting to be sadistic. Let's see if you're masochistic.
now I'm jealous.
Uh-uh.
You'll
um.
have your time, Tatiana, don't you worry.
I don't want my time. I want my baits.
Can't have one without the other. Up
I
to you.
mean,
It's okay. You don't have to have it.
I'm the one who suggested it, so I think,
3, 2,
yeah, I kind of suggested it, so I
take
kind
a
of.
beat. You now have the guilty condition.
Oh my god.
For everyone at home, I will read out what guilty is. If I can find it. Your character is experiencing deep seated feelings of guilt and remorse. This condition is commonly applied after a successful detachment roll. Whatever. He receives a -2 penalty to any resolve or composure roll to defend against subterfuge, empathy, or intimidation rolls. This resolves when he confesses his crimes and makes retribution for what he did. So in this situation, it would be, when you make it up to her. I'll say that because if I just give you this and you be like, oh, how are you doing? That's not really good. So when you feel like you have made it up to her by, oh, I don't know, showering her with flowers, totally not being a bit of a stalker, then your guilty condition will end. You're welcome. Enjoy your singular beat. Continue.
But he is at least going to ask the prior mentioned line of questions. Obviously, we've been talking about the poor, the poor young man downstairs, and we've been talking about your business, and we've been talking about your employees. Obviously, I have done you the disservice of not asking about you and how you are faring, and how I might. And he'll stumble for a moment because he just said how I might help.
Oh, it's so nice of you to ask, Detective. I I will admit I'm pretty shaken up by this incident. However, it is up to me to keep the ship afloat, if you will. If I show any sign of weakness, so will the rest of them. So don't worry about me. endure it. But thank you, I really appreciate your thoughtfulness. You're being too kind.
What a strong, independent woman holding up a business and all of the lives that come along with that and their financial well being, all while handling murder, possible scandal, and she says she's fine and to not worry about her. She has more backbone, power, and self respect, maybe, confidence, understanding of the self and her strengths. You are beginning to wonder why you would ever. How did you come to a point in which you dated that lowly thing that you taught that lesson to? This is someone very different. Someone that would be very nice to possess. Wouldn't want to let them get away from you for too long. That Talasi essence. You can see your horror reaching out for her. Its chains, its limbs, its essence trying to clamp down on her and refuse to let go, but it can't. It just fades through her, but it continues to try and grab at her hair, her neck, her wrists, her shoulders, her waist. It just wants to possess her, to prevent her from leaving. You see this. She does not.
Sadistic moment number 2. Andrew, like all beasts, has a life and a legend. His anchors, if you will, when it comes to other character types. And his life, very much so, reflective in what he does, is that he is helpful. He likes nothing more than to attempt a sense of normal balance when he is helpful. And if there's one thing that he has learned about the kindred in his very short time of knowing them,
Yes.
more off of an innate occult knowledge than most anything else, is that, like himself, now and again, you get hungry.
Go on.
Madam, I truly cannot help but notice that you gave me a glass of brandy, and yet you drank nothing.
Tatiana. He's offering. Willing. Please let us have it.
Oh my god. Yeah, that is sadistic. Cause oh my god.
Don't spoil it now.
Okay, give me a second. I need to check something.
She says, yes, I'm taking my willpower point. She says, yes, I'm taking it.
Okay.
It just
Oh,
keeps happening.
I'm an idiot, but it's
No,
hilarious.
you're brilliant.
How does the mask and dirge play out in terms of
If you go towards your mask and in wanting it to be, this is how I run it usually. And whatever. If you make headway into empowering your mask, the lie that you show people to protect yourself and others, you get a singular willpower point back. However, with Dirge, your real self, if you chase after your real self and its desires to a point where it actually has a large chance of hindering you, um, quite severely, you replenish all spent willpower. You go back up to max.
So it's just for willpower, however.
Yes.
Well, I haven't spent any, so.
Oh,
Mm,
maybe you should have.
oh,
There's
oh
still time.
dear, oh dear. What to do? What to do in this situation?
You could drink.
Ah,
I'll
God.
let you
I will.
marinade.
I will raw willpower again. That's what
Okay.
I'll do.
I would
And,
like you to. What is your hunger at right now? Like what how much?
uh, I've only spent the one.
And you were full?
I'm assuming. I mean, I have my pips around there.
Right. Okay, that's very true. So here's what I'm gonna do. Because this situation I feel like calls for it. He's literally giving himself to you. And this has kind of been a back and forth tasty dance. You are a deva. I'm going to give you a -2. No, that's too much. A -1.
Uh, to the dice.
Correct.
Oh, oh Jesus.
-2 was too much. So just the one. Just the one.
Well, it's still too low. I need more
A
willpower.
singular, and you can't spend willpower on willpower rolls.
I
One
know.
singular
Okay,
success
one
is
success.
all
One
you
success.
need, and
One
you
success.
got it. Well done. You feel yourself slip. You feel your fangs instinctively elongate in front of this man. A very personal action, kind of equivalent to flashing someone, really. And you stare at him. Your fangs elongated. They're perfect curvatures, perfect points of a predator, ready to be used. And at the last moment, before you allow that bliss to launch you forward and to suckle on the arteries of this man, you stop. Just shy. You feel your beast pressing against your very being like a fat kid at a candy store with its grubby mittens on the no longer clean glass and its face mushed up, begging for this candy bar to be unwrapped. But you, the smart mother of this little gremlin, you take him by the ear and you drag him back into place. But my, that was close.
It's hard to stay professional if you're a vampire.
Especially if you're a deva. I'm just gonna find something really quickly. Just give me 1 second.
That scares me.
I love helping people. And if this is a thing, it is. I found it. Okay, 1 second while I read this. Okay. Sure.
Well, she had to roll off against it. Is that good enough for my willpower point?
For what? What do you mean?
He is helpful, and he quite literally offered to help.
You did, but she refused you.
Oh, I have an idea for that, but
Oh. Well, then at the end of the scene, I will tell you if you get it or not.
Fair enough.
You did get 2 beats. And 2 delicious conditions.
So fair enough.
Would you like a beat, Tatiana?
And she was just talking about.
And you'd like one, I bestow upon thee the condition tempted.
Oh, and here I thought you were saying she failed her willpower roll, and that's why I got it.
No. Tempted. Your character came close to losing control. You are at a -1 die penalty to any rolls resisting frenzy. This can stack. Resolution, kill, fall to frenzy, or have a meaningful connection with a touchstone. I don't think any of those three would be beneficial for you at this exact moment, so you need to tread very carefully. Roleplay the beast being with you at all times, even more than usual, because its face and its hands are pressed up against your being, and although you took it by its ear, it's not budging. It's ready. And you are too. You can continue now.
Yeah, I know how this will go. Something tells me that you're gonna be having one more condition before this scene is over. Oh boy. Okay, so I will try to play cool and say that, well, I'm still technically on the clock, so drinking wouldn't be quite appropriate for a person of my station.
Yes, a person of your station dealing with a minor crisis. But I understand. It's all right. Maybe I just wasn't good enough. And he'll he'll collect his things. Now I have the evidence, and the evidence has been handed over to your man, Mr. Black, and I should hope that within a few weeks we will have solid evidence and a solid case for whoever did this.
I do hope so. I I don't quite know how to proceed from here. I mean, I don't expect that things will be business as usual, at least not for a few nights.
Well,
Is that correct?
your customers shouldn't know a thing. It would be your employees, unfortunately. And sadly, I have not improved the situation. I have imposed.
Well, my employees do not know, apart from what they can assume. I'll see how to deal with that for the time being. I I'm curious, however, what did Mark tell you? He was supposed to be watching the closet in the backstage. Surely he should have seen who went in.
What did Mark tell me? uh,
Mark told you that it was that the body was found at somewhere between 6:12 to 6:15. He thinks, and that there is no reason that that time is specific, only because that is what he feels is correct. And then you stepped into the closet for an hour, and you didn't ask him any more questions.
he told me when he thought the young man was found, and that formed the basis for my investigation. But you're telling me he was meant to watch that part of the club?
Yes, this is his job, this is his post to see who goes in, who goes out. We may have some creep trying to sneak in there who wouldn't have that. This is where my girls change. If someone went in there, he should have seen, he should have been in his post.
Would you allow me to bother Mr. Black then for a moment?
What a rookie mistake, Mr. Zillick. You can almost hear your training officer just scolding you from your subconscious.
Oh, I don't believe my training officer would have preferred some sort of supernatural effect to ask questions. However, he is guilty nonetheless. So he will profusely apologize and see himself out.
Okay. The door opens. Tatiana, do you wish to stop him? Your meal is leaving.
Well, I didn't give him my calling card,
Mhm.
which is so improper. So I will give him my calling card and try to not jump him.
Mhm. Andrew, sweet boy. Calling card smells like her. And you get to take it home. How nice. But is that all, Tatiana?
Was it really all up to her? Goodness.
Well, did you want to do anything, Mr. Zilek? Oh, there's
Um,
many things you'd like to do. What would you like to do now?
Well, if he was being handed a card, he would at least make a showing of kissing her on the back of the hand again. Obviously.
His lips linger a little longer than last time, Tatiana. You've had an effect on this poor boy. It would be so easy. How tempting.
How very tempting.
How very -1 tempting.
Oh shit.
You do not need to make another roll. You have made 2 successful, difficult rolls to contain your beast, so you do not need to make another. It is difficult, but you can abstain for now.
Yes, I will do that because I already have one addicted individual. I wouldn't want to add another just yet.
Thus the requiem of a deva, unfortunately. Suitors following your every footstep. Oh, how terrible. And you say
Well,
goodbye.
then, there is the kiss to the back of the hand. There is the card, which is put into a coat pocket
on Dalton
gingerly.
dead
Another
face,
remorseful
eyes
apology.
open. Uh-huh.
Would he actually? Fine, yeah, he would. Perhaps another time, and then he'll leave.
Maybe. You watch your succulent specimen walk away, and your beast within begins to throw a fit. You're in control. There is a sleeping woman in the other room. And there's also that very obedient dog that you have on hand. I'm sure he would give you something to drink if you wanted, but it wouldn't be the same as this exotic feast. Oh well, like he said, maybe next time. You go downstairs, Andrew Zillick, and you are looking for whom?
The Watcher that
The
Mistress
Watcher.
Tatiana mentioned. Because apparently I can never remember his name, other than that it starts with C.
Mark, yeah.
Mark, okay.
Okay, you go down, you go past the lounges, you go into the prop area, the backstage area.
I imagine he's still sitting exactly where Mr. Black told him to.
He's not.
Which direction may he be in?
don't know how I can answer that because I don't know what your merit does.
It just tells him what direction they're in.
I don't know my locations. Let's just go with random and say, let's be be using omens, and let's say west.
Well, he will go west.
You're outside of the building. But he's not there.
Does he feel east?
No, he feels far. You hear behind you. It is Otto. By the way, the carcass and all of that, it's gone. It's as if it never happened.
Do you remember Mark?
Yes.
Do you know where he's gotten to?
Away from here, I would assume. He seemed like he had something to hide. Not my job, though. Definitely seems like yours.
And here I thought I was going to have ask for a nice chat with him.
Men like him get cold feet rather easy. I did my best to control the situation, and I did. And the asset is being relocated so that our mutual result will be completed. But it is not my power or my business to prevent him from leaving this place. I am not Madame Tatiana's employer, nor is she my employee. I stay out of her business usually, unless specifically called. But I'm getting too into detail, giving you too much. He's not here.
You would prefer an associate that can handle their own problems.
I'd like an associate who is reliable. Tatiana, as of late, has made questionable choices, let's say, in terms of investments, what she does with other people, and now it appears she can't keep her own businesses afloat. Disappointment is a word that I would use, if I really cared at all.
Well, I shall take care of this first problem.
Of course, I can help you if that is what you wish. But everything does come at a price. I'm sure you know this, being a detective and all. Sorry, detective pending.
Thank you. I do believe I shall fix the latter half of that soon enough. No, I will take care of this myself.
Very well. He seemed to be running quite fast. I think you should skedaddle. He's making quite the ground, I can assume.
A hint, and he will attempt to straighten his collar, even though it's perfectly straight.
No, it
so
wasn't.
he probably. Oh, really?
It is now, because you undid it, remember? Yes.
Oh, that's
I
true.
do. I remember.
That's true.
Yes. Yeah.
So Andrew will
And
actually
Otto
just
sees everything, as I said since the very beginning.
he's going to take off his tie entirely.
Mm-hmm.
All right then.
He opens the door for you.
And Andrew leaves.
He closes the door behind you.
And then breaks into a
And
run.
Okay, and you run west. And the camera would zoom, if this was a movie, it would zoom in on your face, conflicted with all kinds of, emotions. And it will cut to black. Thank you so much for playing. I will finish with our lovely Mistress Tatiana. She's so beautiful I can't even say her name anymore. And then this will be a wrap. Mistress Tatiana,
Yeah.
your meal's gone, but you're still very tempted. You hear a knock at the door.
Come in.
The door opens. It is your lovely Otto. And because you said to come
lovely.
in, he does so. He closes the door, does not lock it. Being very friendly with that one, I see. And his eyes narrow. I could
I don't know
smell you all over him. Is this
I don't
going to be a
know
problem?
what it is that you're implying, Mr. Otto.
Oh, come now.
I'm perfectly professional, I can assure you.
Well, I'm sure that our people will approve of this report when I return. Wouldn't want any irregularities to occur in the paperwork. You are very good at what you do, usually.
Yes,
Is
so I've
everything
been
wrapped up
told.
here?
I believe so. Did Mr. Zillig find Mark? He was
I
supposed to
believe
ask
he's
him
finding him
questions.
right now.
Okay, I will have to speak to him afterwards. I don't think that I need such a person under my employ anymore.
Hmm.
If he can't do simple tasks like watch the door.
Yes, it takes a particular kind of oath to not be able to watch a door. But that is not my business. My business was to come here and discreetly handle the situation, which I have done. I have, forgive the pun, ma'am, I have advocated for you, so to speak. My job is done and I will be on my way.
And for
Note.
that, I'm very grateful.
Oh, of course. I just wish to make it known verbally before it becomes written down, as all things are usually for us, that a favor of a considerable price is owed to I, Otto Julius von Grimmelshausen, and I will come to collect in the future. Have a good evening, ma'am, and try not to make too many more messes.
Have a good evening, Mr. Otto. I'll be seeing you around.
He will open that door and he will give you a singular nod before closing it, and he is out of your line of sight. Tatiana, what is going through your head right now?
A bit eye rolling on this guy. Man, he's so stiff. I'm
He
thinking that
is
he
the
needs
dead
to loosen
person.
up. Yeah, he needs to loosen up a bit.
Hmm.
Other than that, I'm feeling very, very, very uncomfortable. Very, very, very exhausted.
Really?
And I need
Interesting you
to
say that.
leave.
Because as the camera zooms upon your face and that perfect expression contorts into that of worry for yourself. How greedy of you. You feel something bloom inside of you. Funny, since you're a deva. And this thing that bloomed is currently being felt by one Mr. Zillick. You too are guilty. And only when you resolve will you get that beat.
I'm guilty towards whom specifically?
You are guilty towards Dalton,
Mhm.
the
Okay.
person you allowed to die in your own club. And as the camera zooms in on Dalton's dead face, his eyes open. And with that, we conclude a session at Gotham by Night, episode A Wilting Rose.